Hello, Mavericks. Welcome to Trading Psychology. All right, let me go ahead and start this session off. My name is Rob. I am an overtrader. It seems like 9 out of 10 times I can handle the trade correctly, but 1 out of 10 times I just seem to blow it. All right, I could go on and on, but I think you get the point. This is like a session. A group session where we all have our problems and issues. And I actually gave a speech at a Trader Expo a few years ago. And I really liked the speech because this is how I started off. I started off like, hey, everybody, nice to see you. We're here at this great Trader Expo. There's all this great software. There's all this great training. It's wonderful, but here's the problem. You suck. And I pointed at him. You suck. And then I just sat silent for about 5 seconds. And everyone just started looking around like, wait a second. This isn't the talk I thought we were going to hear. And I said, look, I know that's right in your face, but look, I suck too. And then I went into all the things that I do wrong. And I said, look, until you get a hold on this, none of the education is going to help you out. None of the software is going to help you out. Nothing's going to help you out because this is where the game is won and lost. So sit back, kick your feet up, because we're about to go inside of your brain and talk about why people fail at things. And I'm not just talking about at trading. It's really about everything. It's because of who we are. Remember, the market is going to do what it's going to do. The market's going to go up, down, sideways. It's going to be super volatile. It's going to be low volatile. There are people that make money as traders. And there's investment companies that make a lot of money. And then there's people that lose money. The variable is the person. That's the variable. The variable is you. So we're going to go through just quickly. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because we built an entire section of our website called the Psychology Corner, where you can go and find tons of information about this. But I wanted to bring this up because as you're starting your process of building your trading plan and testing it out, this is going to pop up. And if you're not ready for it, you're going to fail because of it. So I love this quote. Trading doesn't just reveal your character, it also builds it if you stay in the game long enough. From personal experience, I can say that this is so true. I became a better trader once I really dove into the psychology aspect of it. And it wasn't just I became a better trader. I actually became a better spouse. I became a better father. I became a better communicator. I became a better son. I started talking to my parents in my 20s. Isn't that amazing? And it just helped me realize who I was and why I did what I did. So the first thing, again, is recognition. Behavior change starts at self-awareness. If you aren't aware of the reasons why you keep choosing the same choices, you are doomed to continue to repeat them. So recognition and then acceptance. Again, this is step 1 of Alcoholics Anonymous. Sorry, it might be step 2. But acceptance. Oh, this is who I am. That's why I started this session out with, I'm an overtrader. I can't seem to not click a button, even though I know I shouldn't. I don't have the discipline to not click the button. I have discipline in all other areas of my life, but for this reason, I struggled a lot. If you want to hear more about my struggles, I've got several videos over in the Psychology Corner about overtrading, and they're pretty funny. It wasn't funny at the time when I was struggling with it, but now looking back on it, it is pretty funny. Investigation. So once you know what you do and you understand you can't fix it by discipline, then you say, okay, how can I actually overcome this? And then the last one, competency. The thing I'm the most proud of as a trader is that I no longer trade my opinion. All right, just think about that. I no longer trade my opinion. In the beginning, if there was a company that I liked their product, I could never go short. And if there was a company that had slighted me in any way, or I didn't like their product, I could never go long. I remember the very first time I came across this was TiVo. Now, those of you who are young, you're not going to remember TiVo, but TiVo was the greatest invention of all time. It was the first DVR. You no longer had to sit through commercials watching TV. TiVo came up as a good short on my watch list, and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I love TiVo. Why would I short this stock? I love it. I finally shorted the stock, made a couple $1,000s, got out of it, and I still liked my TiVo. And then I realized, oh, it doesn't matter. I can trade differently than my opinion. So the competency is where you understand who you are, understand that you're probably never going to be able to change it, and then you find a way to trade in spite of it. Everything we've done is really built around these two books. There's other great books out there on trading. Trading in the Zone is another one I highly recommend. But these two are phenomenal. This is the science behind why we do what we do. The Hour Between Dog and Wolf is a fantastic book. It is sort of like the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde story, where there's a change. For those of you that are younger, it's like the Hulk. It's like Bruce Banner and the Hulk. Once there's that chemical change, you literally can't stop. Now, The Hour Between Dog and Wolf was written by John Coates. He was a money manager, hedge fund manager for a long time. And he saw in these moments of stress, people either made it or they broke. He was really interested in why. So he actually went to get his medical degree in neuroscience to study what actually happens in the brain. So let's really talk about you. We've all heard about nature versus nurture. Which one is more important? Nature is your DNA. You are born with a personality. Now, I always thought before I had kids that when I had kids, they were these little lumps of clay, and I got to form them entirely how I thought they should be. Wow, was I wrong? They come with a full-on set of personalities already to them, and there's really not much you can do to change them. And then there is your nurture. This is what you've learned. This is the experiences you've had, what you've learned, what you've been told. You're going to see life differently based on your nurture. So let's quickly go through the DNA part. DNA, we have you take your personality profile test. Now that personality profile test, this is your DNA. Remember, you didn't make a decision when you were 15, 16 years old whether or not you were going to be the life of the party or whether you were going to sit in the corner or not even go to the party. You never made that decision. Why? Because it was who you were. It was already decided. It's very difficult for an introvert to all of a sudden be the life of the party and the person up on stage with all the spotlights on them. And if that ever happened, it's because the introvert really worked at it, was self-aware enough, understood that that's not who they were, and they worked on changing it. So that personality profile test, that's who you are. Things just are natural. Again, they're called natural tendencies. Me, I'm an extrovert. I've always been an extrovert. I've never not been an extrovert. I never made the decision. The next one, mind, intuitive, observant. Again, we've already gone through these things. This is who you are. If you try to change who you are, you're going to fail. Period. You also have your experiences. So we have genetics and epigenetics. Epigenetics is what you've been taught, your programming, your past experiences. If you were bitten by a dog when you're 3 years old, it's very likely that you have an irrational fear of dogs as an adult. Did you ever think about that? No. You weren't born afraid of dogs, but you had something happen to you that caused that. So you need to understand that these things actually change your genetics. Epigenetics, it's phenomenal. It's fascinating. I've read so much about this lately, is that your DNA strand actually changes, and you can actually pass down your epigenetics to your kids. So the experiences that you have in your life, you can actually pass that down to your kids in a genetic marker. It's crazy. So basically, what I'm trying to say is you are wired to lose. I'm sorry. You're wired to lose. Okay. That's where I wanted to get, where we are in despair. Now it's like, now if you're saying to yourself, no, I'm not wired to lose. Remember, the first step was recognition and acceptance. That's right. We need to get you to the point where you recognize that as a human being, there are things that the market is going to kill you for. And if you aren't aware of that, you're going to lose. So let's work on the process. This is going to be a long process. I tell people it takes you 6 months to learn the X's and O's of trading, the charts, the setups, the everything. It takes you 3 to 5 years to learn the psychological part. It's just how long it takes. So until you master that point, you're not going to be an expert. So let's go through this, a couple just studies. I love these studies. This is the Harvard study. And the British actually made an entire game show around this question. So they give someone $100 and they have to go to somebody and say, hey, if I give you 50 of this $100, will you accept it? And if they say yes, then each person gets what they agree to. Now, the proposer, if I gave you $100 and you looked at me and you were thinking, okay, I want as much of this $100 for myself, but I need you to agree to this or I don't get any money. In your mind, you're thinking, okay, what's the smallest amount I can give this person? Maybe $25? So what they did is they hooked everyone up to an MRI machine and they scanned their brain. Now the proposers, their decision-making was done in the prefrontal cortex. When they talked to the responder, any offer that was deemed fair. Now again, they didn't have any number, but just the offer was at least deemed fair by the responder. If the offer was deemed fair, the responder used their prefrontal cortex. This is where logic and reason are, to make the decision, and they agreed upon it. But if the offer was unfair in their mind, they no longer use their prefrontal cortex. They use their anterior insula, which is where we have fear and anxiety. They weren't using the part of their brain that has logic and reason. They were using a different part of the brain. So this is how we work. This is how we work as human beings. When we have a decision to make, here's another one. They followed around a bunch of people that were playing blackjack. When there was no money on the line, they used their prefrontal cortex. When there was money on the line, they used other parts of their brain to make their decisions. It's just how the psychological parts of being a human. Here's another one. This one just blew my mind. This is in behavioral investing. Somebody took a study of judges' sentences. So people were found guilty. They had to go before the judge to be sentenced. And they said, okay, these were all judges with a lot of experience. They got rid of any new judge. These judges had to be very experienced judges. And they looked at all the sentences that were given down throughout the day. The most lenient ones were after breakfast and after lunch. The harshest ones were right before lunch. They were severe and harsh. Can you imagine your sentence for a crime being determined by the judges was hangry? They were hungry. So you got an extra 2 years because they didn't get their sandwich. And had you just been the slot after lunch, you would have had 2 years less. This one just blew me away, that something like hunger will literally affect your decision-making process, even for professionals. Let's jump into the Dunn Kruger effect. This is one of my favorite ones, Dunn Kruger, where people with the least amount of knowledge have the highest amount of confidence. And this is trading so much. I remember me being totally unsure about trading, decided I want to get into it. I read 2 books, and boy, my confidence was the highest it's ever been. And it was tough. It was definitely an eye-opening thing. So this is how you start. You start with confidence. You realize, oh, it's harder than it looks. And then the work starts to come in, and you just have to work at it and work at it and work at it. So don't worry, I don't know where you are on this chart, but we all go through this. It's just a matter of time and work. Every single person can become an expert at anything. It's just a matter of time and work. So the process of going through trading, you just have to be going through the process. However, let's talk about work, because many jobs, the harder you work, the more you get paid. And the harder you work, the more it pays off. Sadly, trading is not like that. The more work you do can actually be counterproductive. The more research you do is counterproductive. I remember in one of our Maverick summits, I talked about this exact effect, and I talked about how if you were to research a trade for 10 hours, you are now invested into that trade. Meaning that if it didn't work out, you couldn't just get out because you have invested so much time and effort into it. And the more time and energy you invested into it, the more likely you were to stay with it. Whereas if you just flipped a coin on a trade, that's all you did was flip a coin, heads go long, tails you go short, and it didn't work out, you would bail on it in a second. So there is this middle ground. You have to do enough work to where it's engaging, but too much work is actually counterproductive. So again, when you're going through the process, you need to find this balance. You need to find the balance. So let's talk about the work. So as I said, it's going to take like 6 months for you to really get the knowledge, just the charting, the setups, how the currency markets work, everything. After that, it's all about the psychology. It's about things you're going to do that mess it up. How do you optimize your behavior to be the most profitable that it can be? And I tell people that's going to take 3 to 5 years. So I get it right now. If you're new to trading, jump into the knowledge, jump into the X's and O's, jump into the charts, get all that down. If you've already been trading for a while and you know a lot of that stuff, I highly recommend to not learn more of that stuff, but to really focus on the psychology. I tell people all the time, I have not read a trading book in over a decade. All I read now is behavioral finance and psychology books. That's it. That's where I'm at right now to help me become a better trader. So, trading psychology. Identify, accept your weaknesses, design and plan those weaknesses, and understand that you are who you are. I'm an extrovert. I'm an overtrader. I always have to be on guard. So I'm always putting myself in what I call trading halts. Again, if I have a very good string of trades, I put myself in a trading halt. Hey, you can't trade anymore for a week. Again, if you go to the overtrading video we have in our psychology corner, I tell some funny stories about the things I had to do to stop me from clicking the button. Things like giving my wife my security card so I couldn't log into my account. Things like taking my entire computer down, unplugging it, and putting it in the basement. Like drastic measures because I literally couldn't do it through discipline. So the whole thing here is to get competence. So you have to learn the stuff. You have to learn the X's and O's of trading, but really focus on the psychology of it. Do a deep dive. Now, we have an entire section of the website called the Psychology Corner, and we've broken it up into a bunch of sections. So if you just go to the homepage, up here is going to be Psychology Corner. You're going to come here, and we've broken it up into sections. So again, if you have any question at all, anything you're dealing with, we'll have a video there. And look, if we don't have a video there, please send us an email and say, hey, you know what? I'm struggling with this. Can you make a video? And absolutely, we'll make a video, and we're adding it to the content all the time. So please do not ignore this. I know there's a lot for you to do to go through the system and to build your system and to back test it. But this is really where the game is won and lost, in the Psychology Corner. The first thing you need to focus on is the technical analysis and the trading principles. So if you're fairly new to this, just dive headlong into learning every single thing you can about charting, technical analysis, position sizing, position management. That's where you need to focus your time. Then you can come back to the psychology aspect, which is really where the game is won and lost. But if you don't know the basics, it doesn't matter what you know about the psychology. So once you get to that point, if you've already traded quite a bit, I highly recommend you just dive right into this. And the first thing you need to do is just accept who you are. Accept all your shortcomings, accept everything that you're doing. And I'm telling you, your life is going to be so much better. I used to wear my car keys around my neck on a shoelace. And when we were dating, my wife found it kind of a cute and adorable. I remember a couple years into my marriage, what she says now is she recognizes that was a huge red flag. I'm always losing stuff. I'm always losing her stuff, which makes her very upset. She said, "Hey, have you tried changing this?" And I say, "Of course I've tried to change this. This has been infuriating my whole life. Of course I've tried to change it. Now we no longer try to change it. She just never lets me borrow anything. And that's fine because it is so much better." So accept who you are and find ways to trade with your personality. Design your system around you and your personality. And if you ever have any issues, just go to the Maverick Psychology Corner. Visit it. We've got lots of videos on there. Hopefully it will help you out as you're struggling with some things, because this is where the game is won and lost. We've all been down this road before as traders. Anyone who's gone before you has experienced everything you've experienced. Let us help you out. Thanks for joining me.